Welcome to step 7 of the tutorial for creating custom lakes for Pishtech's game VR Sportfishing. We are right now working with L3DT by Bundysoft, a really neat large 3D terrain generator. I do apologize if this is flying by awfully fast. I realize we're covering a lot in a very short time. This isn't intended to by any means give you a complete mastery of L3DT or these other tools. This is merely a demonstration of how some of these things are done. It is going to take some time to play around with L3DT, read the documentation, get to know it, but I'm simply showing you some of the ways that this can be done. And yeah, take your time and have fun with it. As you get to know this program, I think you'll really enjoy what you can create with it. Alright, now in this step we are going to extract the data that we created in L3DT that we need in the game. Under the File menu we can export maps. Remember, we need a height field, that grayscale image. We can pick a bitmap file type. It will give it to us in that format. And you can pick your size, but depending on how you generated your height field, but we have it at 1024 square. I'm going to save it in the folder where my game is located, and again, using my initials, PJH, then the name of the lake. Let's call this Deer Lake with an underscore. This is my height field that I'm saving, Deer Lake height field.bmp, and that's saved, or it will be momentarily. Okay, now I'm going to export another map. I also need the texture map. The texture is the one we're looking at right here. It's this nice image that gives us our shadows. It shows, this is where by creating, using different textures, all the work you did gives you what looks like a satellite view of your lake if the water disappeared. We don't want it to look blue here where it's water. So that's why we generated the texture map. We did not do a water map. In other words, we didn't flood our map and get water effects here because we actually don't want them. The game is going to give us the water. Alright, so it looks like our lake minus water. But we're going to export this texture map. It's got different formats available here too. JPEG is actually fine. It's a smaller file size, and for this image it won't hurt anything at all to use a JPEG, but bitmap is also supported. So we're going to save this as PJH Deer Lake texture.jpg. Alright, and save it. One more we're going to export. This one is not directly going to go into the game, but it's an intermediate file that we will use. The attributes map, remember, that's the one that shows us which land types go on which parts of the map, where the grass is, and so on. We're going to save it as a PNG. Just save it in a format that your image editor can support. And notice we don't have BMP or some of these others. But I'm going to save it as a PNG. Again, just an intermediate file, but I'm still going to name it with the same convention, file naming convention, so I don't confuse myself with other files. Alright, I'm going to save that. Now, if I go into the folder where I have saved them, and I sort by date modified, the top 3 files here are the ones I just exported. Let's open them up in Picture Publisher. There's our height field. We're not going to need to change this one. It's ready to go into the game. Same thing with the texture map. It's ready to use. Although if we want to, we can play with some filters, tone balance. If we want to, brighten things up a little bit, we sure can do that kind of thing in here. In fact, I like the looks of that. I'm going to save it and close it. Here's our attributes map. Remember, this is just an intermediate file for us. We're not going to give this file to the game, but it shows us where our grass is with the green, where our sand is with the yellow, where our stones are with the light brown, where our mud is with the dark brown. This one's pretty simple. We could have had cliffs, we could have had desert and snow and other things, but the way we built this lake, we're really only going to have 4 splatting layers, 4 different land types that we're going to use. I'm going to use a tool in Picture Publisher called a Chroma Mask, and there's something comparable in any high-quality image editing tool. But it will let me pick a color. In this case, I'll take the grass first, and say a range, how sensitive, how close do colors have to be included. I'm going to say 0. I want only exactly that green. When I say OK, it masked all the grass and nothing else. Okay, now let's start creating alpha maps. new file, grayscale, 1024 by 1024. I will load that mask that I just saved. So the mask from here, save the mask as temp, and I load it here. So now this image, if I invert the mask, so now I'm selecting everything that's not grass, invert the image, I just turned everything that's not grass black. So if I use this as my alpha map right now for grass, it means I would have solid grass here, and our nice landscape texture wouldn't show through. But it would also be a hard line between where grass is and grass isn't. I don't want that. I'm going to remove the mask right now, and I'm going to smooth my image. First, I'm going to do actually a maximum smooth, and what that means, let's zoom in and preview what it would do. It means that it's going to look at every pixel, and in the surrounding area, depending on the amount I pick, it's going to pick the maximum value, meaning the brighter pixel, to determine the effect of on those other pixels. So it's going to expand the areas of whiteness just a little bit. You can see how this is going to become that, and this is going to become that. The reason to do that is so that your alpha maps will overlap slightly, and you don't have any gaps where you don't have a detailed texture at all. If you smooth in the other direction, if you did a minimum smooth or too much average smoothing, you could otherwise get areas between them that kind of fall through the cracks. But I'm going to do just a little bit, not even that much, just a little bit of maximum smoothing. And now I'm also going to do some average smoothing. This is the one that's going to soften it. See the effect there? In fact, I might soften that a little more. This way it doesn't look like somebody took an edger to the edge of the grass and cut hard lines. It's going to be a soft line. I also don't want pure white where it's grass because I want that texture underneath to show through. So I'm going to go to the contrast manager and brightness manager and darken. It's darkening 5% per click. I'm now down 15%. I'm going to go down 40% because I really do want on this map my overall landscape texture to show through significantly. Alright, so boom. Now I have my alpha map for my grass. I will save that as PJH Deer Lake Alpha .bmp. Oops, I forget. I want to call it Deer Lake Grass Alpha. Specify what it is. That's the naming convention I like to use. Just do whatever you want as long as you can keep it straight. Okay? So I'm going to replace it. I did an earlier edit on this file, but there now is our grass alpha map. Okay, back here I can remove the mask, do a Chroma Mask again, and this time pick the sand, the yellow that to me means sand based on my climate and my land type in L3DT. Save my mask, create another new file, load the mask, invert it. Oh, I inverted the image. Now invert it. So now there's my map of sand. Where it's yellow here is white here. I'm going to do that same smoothing I did, a little bit of maximum smoothing, and a little bit of average smoothing. And then I'm going to darken it, same way I did before. I'm going to darken it 40% again, and save that one. Now this one is PJH Deer Lake Sand Alpha.bmp. Okay, so I've done 2 of them, and I still have mud and rock to go. I don't need to show you those steps, but that's how I do it. I'm going to do the same thing twice more to get my rock alpha map and my mud alpha map. And I'm going to just do that, and then we will set up our text file. Okay, while I had the camera paused, I whipped up the same way our rock alpha map and our mud alpha map. So again, keep in mind the mud is going to determine where vegetation can grow in the game. Alright, so we have all those set up. Now what do we need to do? Well, we need to create our text file. We haven't done that yet, so we will bring up our master text file, lakedefmaster.txt. We will rename it and edit in our new parameters. So we're going to create our new LAK file, and we're going to edit these parameters. We will show you some of those other parameters in the next segment.